Hey guys, Lewis here. Today I'm updating you guys on my Motorvox. I'm going to talk about the motor and the build and share some thoughts on other builds that might help you guys. So let's get to it. Alright, so here's a rundown on this bike. This is a stretched Motorvox frame. So it's basically a tab relocate from the bottom to the rear with X18 pocket bike wheels and X18 pocket bike front end. Basically the whole fork. This swap I had to convert the neck on this, but with some pocket bikes they come with 4 inserts for the center where the bolt would go through, like in the center over here, and you can just run them like this is an example, like this. See how they come with inserts? And this is another X18 front end setup, and they come with the inserts, but these didn't. And so I had to use flange bearings from Ace Hardware I had to change the neck bearings too to a 12mm ID, and I had to use a stock like a stock Doodlebug axle bolt to hold it down. It works perfect. This is the same way I did it on my old setup, the black Motorvox. The same exact twin as this bike, but smaller motor. That's the only thing. So yeah, that's the frame, that's the wheel, because that's like the #1 question I get asked is the wheel setup. It's an X18, so you can't buy them online. The only way to get them is like secondhand, or if you buy a pocket bike, a complete pocket bike, and part them out. Other than that, I don't know where you're gonna find them, because online they're sold out everywhere. So yeah. For the brake setup, oh no. I also have a steel rod as a gusset on my frame rail. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a rod from Lowe's, and it goes all the way around. So basically, to get this bend, this is how thin it is. See, it's like I forgot the name and dimensions of it, but it's from Lowe's. You can see it when you see it, you'll know what it is. It just basically wraps around and it keeps the frame from flexing. So it's less of a chance that your chain is gonna come off. So I didn't do it on my last bike. No, I did do it on my last bike, but I didn't do it from the front to the rear. I did like just the bottom rail. And I think I used 1 rod for the whole bike. This one I bought 2 rods, so it goes from the front to the rear. And I copied this idea from my friend Alberto Rodriguez on Facebook. So if you guys are on Facebook, add me. My name is the same name as the YouTube name, unless I change it. But yeah, this is it for the frame. That's really about it. I have some fake vinyl wrap that I put on sideways. Cause look, you see the seat, right? You see how the pattern goes like that way, like this way, and then over here it goes like forward, which is kind of like retarded. So I don't give a shit. It's just a wrap. So here's the other side of the bike. Tire lettering looks dope. For the hydros, I have a heavy duty dual piston, $45 eBay caliper, and some heavy duty bracket. I mean, it's a heavy duty bracket. It works. It doesn't look heavy duty, but it works. You know what I'm saying? I need to fix my tank because it's yeah. So Walbro fuel pump, a Koso 26mm carb, the ported head. You guys know the rundown on this motor because I made a separate video about it. But if you don't, it's a 236cc bottom end, Tillitson block, stroker cast crank, Tillitson rod, a custom grind, custom grind 329 lift cam, 270 duration, for precision. Head is the stock valve RTC head from the new non-Hemis with the automotive style valves. 32-pound dual springs from Tillitson for the 5mm valve, and the head is milled 85 thousandths. I run 100 octane with a 45 thousandths fire ring head gasket. That's about it. There's no kickback. Most people are like, how do you start it? It starts just like a stock 212. You know what I mean? There's nothing different. If your motor is pulling back on you, your lash is set up wrong. Check the exhaust side. Most of the time it's on the exhaust side, but I set my lash to like as close to 0 as I can. Most people are like setting like 3,000s, but you can. I'm not saying don't, but I set mine at 0 because when your engine is warmer, the lash grows. Most people think the opposite, but it grows, so the lash gets bigger. And you don't want a lot of lash because that's lift being taken away. I mean, it's not that much lift, but you get the picture, right? So you want to maximize. But yeah, this is just some fake metal, not fake metal. It's just some thin piece of metal I got from Ace Hardware. Bent it up. I cut it, fake vinyl wrap. On a size 2, and yeah, 236cc Tillitson. Stock length Motovox frame. Just tab relocate from the bottom, so it went from here to here. And I didn't lower the bike. Once they were like, how'd you lower the bike? I didn't lower the bike. The only way it lowered itself was when you move the tab up here. So if you have stock wheels, I wouldn't recommend this. If you have stock wheels, I put the tab back here instead of up here because these wheels are taller than stock. So I compare that to this. Okay, this is like 14.5. This is 16.5, and it does make a difference. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. Bars are cheap Flybars from eBay, and this is my setup for the. Because I had a guy on Facebook ask me about the setup, but I never sent him pictures, and that's kind of my fault. So here you go, bro. It's basically all right. Remember the V that goes here? Let me show you better. Alright. They're the same ones. These are exact same triples, right? This is just what you have to do to get the your risers on. So this is the setup I did. You chop the V with a grinder, like shave it down. I take a disc, I cut all the way down through here, just down until it's lined up with this level right here, right? And then I try to chop off right here some with the disc, and then after I can't use the disc anymore, I take the grinding wheel and I just flatten it out like this. You can still see the cut where I made with the disc. See? went all the way flat to that metal surface, and you know, works good. These are spacers from Ace Hardware. The bolt, lock nut, not the lock nut, the lock washer, and I put blue Loctite in here. I recommend that. Like, gotta make sure you're safe. So get blue Loctite with the lock washer. These are some like heavy duty bolts from Ace Hardware, and yeah, these bolts in here too are from Ace Hardware. I had to make spacers for the front wheel. So the front wheel, the reason why I didn't go just with this, so the front wheel uses a thinner axle than like stock axle. So if you're gonna run the stock X18 rim on like a stock Doodlebug fork, you're gonna have to swap the bearings out to bigger ID bearings to fit a bigger ID axle. Okay, that's the reason I went with the forks. Plus they're suspension forks, so you know. If you need X18 forks, I got a set for sale. With the front rim. No axle. But yeah, this is the bike. Let me talk about your combos now. Oh, also vented block. So like, try to vent your, if you're running like a you know, like your drag racing motors and all that, try to vent your block, because most people don't understand this, but there's a pulse, like a positive pressure, which they call crankcase pressure, and this is just positive pressure from the piston. So as your piston moves up and down, it creates this pressure. So if you relieve this pressure, it's easier for the crank to go through. It doesn't make more power, just frees it up, because the crank isn't fighting all that pressure now that it's being freed out. You know what I'm saying? Before, all this was closed off. Like, let's say you didn't have these lines and all that. The only way you'd relieve that pressure is through those little holes by the push rod and the hole, the oil galley through the head on the right side. That's the only way you're gonna oil or relieve pressure. And it escapes out of the little vent hole up here, but it's baffled, so much is going out, you know. I took the baffle out of this valve cover on the inside, so if you compare this to like a stock one, there's no baffle on the inside, and it's just straight oil. I mean, you do have to put more oil or watch it, but I don't know. For me, it's worth it. It's a race bike. What are you gonna? If you don't want to check that shit, stay with a stock bike. Okay. So this is what you call a race bike. That a stage 1 stock motor with the governor still inside. I just disabled it with a zip tie. You can run that motherfucker with no venting. You know, it'll run all day long. This thing you can too, but why? When it's a big bore stroker motor, just do the little bit of venting and tell me that it doesn't look good. Those red lines. You know, I'm not gonna lie. When I first started, I did it for the looks. You know, I didn't know what the fuck it was about. But then I started to read about it and, you know, learn about the motors. And then I was like, okay, this shit actually helps and looks good. So, you know, win-win. But, yeah, man, this is all I gotta say about my build. So now, like, the stage 1 builds, if you're doing, like a stage 1 combo, if you have parts laying around, I recommend a Hemi bottom end with a new non-Hemi head. So, like, you know, the new heads that come with the thin 5mm valves, and they're automotive style valves, so they come with like split keepers stock from the factory. So those are the good heads. This is the exact head I have here. Stock valves too, and they can handle so much spring pressure. Stock, they're very strong, very light. You know, back cut the valves if you port them. So like when you port the head, back cut the valve. You can even thin the valve. So like seal it, right? Put valve grinding compound and seal it, like go over it with the thing, you know, when you go between your fingers, and see where your sealing margin is around the valve, around the face of the valve. And if the gray line is like in the middle around the surface, and you have area to thin outside of it, put it in a drill or something, electric drill, and like thin the outside so you get close to the gray sealing margin, so you have a thinner valve face, so air could move around it for, I don't know if you understand what the fuck I just said, but back cut your valves and thin them to the sealing margin. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but unless I have a picture, that I can't explain it like through words. But yeah, and your tune is very important too. So I don't know why I got off topic, but yeah, stage 1 build, do like a Hemi bottom end, non-Hemi head, 18-pound springs. Now we're talking stage 1, no billet parts right here. So 18-pound springs, and you should be good to go. You don't have to port the head, that's just mandatory, and you don't even have to do the whole Hemi bottom and non-Hemi head. You can just run a full Hemi motor or a full non-Hemi motor. It doesn't matter. If you're doing stage 1 stock parts, it doesn't really matter. I prefer the non-Hemi. It's a little bit harder to get the springs in, but it's gonna rev a little bit more because the valve assembly, the rockers and the valves are a lot lighter than the Hemis. So it's easier to get springs in a Hemi because the retainers you can just slide on with your thumb. But yeah, so stage 1, 18-pound springs, very, very important. You don't have to do any billet parts. You don't have to touch the head. Just the only thing you have to do is remove the governor, 18-pound springs. Stage 1, you have to jet your pilot and your main. It's very important. Most people who order the stage 1 kit from like Go Power Sports, all they get is a brass main, and you have to jet your pilot. It's very important. Your pilot is the black screw underneath your idle screw. It's like a black plastic piece underneath your idle screw. And that's for stock carb. High flow header, I recommend the NR Racing 3-stage header. So I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description for the header that I use, and you can use this header on Motorvox, Monster Moto, Doodlebug, whatever you want. I run them on a lot of my bikes. And I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description for a jet kit, which comes with your pilot and your main. This is from eBay. I'm not sponsored or anything, but it's not even my listing. It's just what I order for all my stage 1 bikes. It's only $10, and you just get it and bolt it in. So it's way better than the Go Power Sports kit, and yeah, it does me good. So jet kit. Let me go ahead and run you down again on the stage 1 kit because I talk a lot and I get off topic a lot. So sorry. Stage 1 kit, no billet parts. Hemi or non-Hemi, doesn't matter. 18-pound springs, a must. I mean, you don't have to, but very, very important, you know, because your valves are gonna float. Stage 1 kit, intake kit, and exhaust. I don't know where I just got off topic. Okay, hold up. I have a fucking, oh my god, my brain's just all over the place now. Fuck. Alright, let me run this shit down because I don't want to edit it and I don't want to have to start again. Alright, here. Stage 1 kit, right? Hemi or non-Hemi, 18-pound springs, intake kit. Your jets are very important. You have to jet your pilot and main, and a high flow header. Your gearing, I suggest a cheap eBay clutch, which is like $20-$25 from eBay, 12-tooth clutch, 35 chain. And your rear, so if you have like a stock base frame like this, most of your tires are 14.5 inch. For your gear, if you want torque, go with a 1270 gear. If you want all around, go with like a 1260. And if you want top end, go with a 1253. And that's with a like a split sprocket adapter, like something like this right here. This is a split sprocket adapter that you can get from BMI Cards or Go Power Sports. And the red thing is a split sprocket that you can get from about any go-kart shop or any website. I get mine from BMI Cards too, so get the hardware from Ace Hardware and all that. Use blue Loctite, especially on the bolts that hold it to your rim, because I had mine come off one time and I was stranded in the road for like 2 hours. So yeah, that's just some good information. Yeah, your gearing is very important. If you're running at like 30 miles an hour and your bike is doing wheelies all over the place, then you have like the wrong gear. So just if you have a big ass rear sprocket in the rear, change it down to a smaller one. That's how you lose the torque, but you gain more mile an hour. But yeah, same with the clutch. If you have a smaller clutch, you're gonna have more torque. If you have a bigger tooth clutch, you're gonna sacrifice that torque to gain it up top. So it makes more sense if you go and watch my old video when I had that yellow bike in the video. That video was so retarded, like I was all over the place, but I made a good example when I showed the go-kart chart and the numbers. So go ahead and look at that, and it'll make more sense to understand the gear ratio. So yeah, A billet part. Now I'm gonna move on to like a billet part mild build. And that's the build that I had on my old video. Now there's so many ways you can go about this build. The one I had was a stock bore, stock stroke, full non-Hemi motor, Y-Skull flat top, a ARC rod, ARC flywheel, stock timing, stock coil, stock non-Hemi head. I didn't even mill it. It was a 27 thousandths head gasket. It was an MLS head gasket. And I had 26 pound springs, the same exact carb as this, and almost the same pipe as this, same bike. The gear was very similar to this. It was a 1264, and this is a 1265. This bike runs 84 miles an hour in the quarter. The old bike did 78, and this bike gets there a lot quicker and makes more top end. So I was like, I'm so happy with this bike. I know I said this motor will do 90. It is capable, but the only thing holding me back is the gear. Oh, I dropped my phone. Shit. I just don't want to hold the bike longer to get to that speed. I just don't see a point in it anymore. So after the quarter mile, nobody really races that unless you're doing like Miami street style riding, which I don't. So I'm happy with the bike. It gets there fast as fuck. It gets to 84 real quick. And, you know, I just don't see a point in changing my gear to impress somebody that I hit 90. So, you know, I'm happy with the bike. Yeah, so the old setup was stock bore, stock stroke, non-Hemi full motor, 26 pound spring, same carb, same pipe. Y-Skull flat top, ARC rod, flywheel, 32-degree timing, ported head. Of course, ported head is a very, very important thing. You can port the non-Hemi head or get a big valve head with the stock bore, stock stroke. I stay with the stock valve. Springs, you can go more. You can go 32 pounds. I could definitely rev more than 9,000. I could use it, but before I couldn't because I was only on 26 pound springs and it wouldn't go over 9,000. So with 32 pound springs or like 40 or even 60s, you know, you'll be way above 9,500, and that'll really benefit you if you're looking for, you know, maximizing top end or whatever. So the cam was a 308. Now I could have gone a different round. I could have went 315, a 292, 307, a 356. There's so many things out there. My personal opinion, don't go anything under like 292. The 292 from NR is probably the smallest lift cam I'd run. This is, if you want like a drag racing cam, go for a P Open from Dyno Cams. Those are really good cams. A 356 or a 315 or a custom grind precision cam like this one. This is a 329 lift, 270 duration, like really, really big. It's bigger than all the cams that are on the market right now. So most people are like, oh, bigger cam isn't always better. But if you have a big bore to take advantage of it, like if you have a big displacement to take advantage of it, then yes, go ahead. It can even gain, like, it can help in smaller bore, but it's just not as beneficial. Okay. I probably sound like weird right now saying it's not as beneficial, but how do I explain this? Like, I don't know, a bigger motor is just gonna want more air to breathe. You get what I'm saying? I don't know how to explain it, but stock bore, stock stroke, you really don't need that much lift. You don't need a 356 with 1.3s and like 120 CFM head for a stock bore, stock stroke. That's way too much flow. So for stock bore, stock stroke, you honestly don't need more than a stock valve head. You know, you really don't. So just think about it. If you have questions, hit me up. These things are so simple to work on. The motor build, just the whole setting them up thing. When I first started, it was kind of confusing, but once you get the ball rolling, it just grows and grows and grows. So it's very, very simple to work on them. The combos now is just super easy. Yeah, that's really about it. What I found to work with these motors is nothing under, like, you know, like I just talked about the cams. If you have a built motor, you know, and you want to go fast, don't go anything under, like, you're like, oh, let me run a hot cam, bro. I got a fucking hot cam in my bike, dude. Like, bro, you got a fucking hot cam. Like, they're talking about like a 265 or like a CM grind or CS grind, bro. All that is just retarded. Just the good race cams are like 292, even the 285s, even from NR Racing, they're good. 275s with 1.3s are okay, but you know, all those like mild mod 2 and all that cams, just you know, those are just not doing it, you know. So yeah, if you want to take advantage of it, get the good big cams. Don't cheap out. Dyno cams, NR Racing, everybody sells them. So comment description. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have questions, seriously, leave them in the comment section below. And yeah, see you guys.